All right, how's everybody doing? So, I did a short, a little bit towards beginning of this week about this guy right here, Karambit. First off, let me get this out of the way. I do not know who the maker of this is, nor do I know what the material is, because my wife got this for me as an early Father's Day gift. So, don't have that info for you. So this is going to be just an overall how it looks, how it feels in the hands, and whatnot. So first, I like to try and give a little bit of history on swords and knives. So the Karambit was developed in the 11th century in Southeast Asia, particularly Indonesia. And then it just spread throughout the region. Got really popular in the Philippines. This actually, when it was first invented, was for rice stalks. So you could sit there and cut the rice stalks, and then it was developed into a weapon. And then the West picked up on it through Filipino martial arts because they like using these. But as far as I understand, the Philippine military, even Indonesia, some other Southeast Asia countries, military does issue the Karambit, but it is actually an extreme last resort weapon. So it's not like their go-to. And we'll get into that later. Theory is they designed it after a tiger's claw, and it kind of does resemble that. So I can see that. Now this one, let's see if we can pick it up, is a Damascus blade. Actually, I should say pattern welded, because Damascus does not exist anymore. It does have its sheath. It's actually relatively nice. It's not very thick. It's a sheath. It does what it's supposed to do. But it has 2 lines of stitching, and the stitching's done very nice. So that way it's got that reinforcement instead of a single stitch. It's got double stitching on it. It does fit in the sheath really nice. Snap secures really good. So it doesn't even move around in it really. So, and it comes out pretty good. Now, the way this thing is designed, you know, obviously your finger goes into it, but if you look at that, it sits really good in the hands. So let's change it around. Put my index finger in it. Your thumb just wraps around there. It sits comfortably in the hand. So the designer of this really thought it through on how it should fit in the hand. Another feature of this is it's got 2 edges, as you can see on it. So you have an edge here and you have an edge here. Some Karambits just have an edge where the crescent is. This one's got double. So the wood is a rosewood, and it's got 5 rivets in it. So it's a no joke thing. And they're making sure that the rosewood doesn't come out. Now, Karambits. I like Karambits. I like the way they look. If they're done right, like this one, how they fit in the hand. That ring is so you don't drop it, because you can use this as, it was a utility tool. So you can use it to cut rope, like I said, rice stalks, things like that, and that nature, before it became introduced as a weapon. So, there are pros and cons to a Karambit, and we're going to get into that right now. One of the pros is it's a great slasher. I mean, it's a devastating slasher. You can hook with it. It's normally used in a reverse grip, so you can really slash with it. You can punch with the ring part. Disarming somebody, having karambit, it's going to be very difficult because the finger is locked in to that ring, either way that you hold it. Okay. Now, what are the cons though to having a karambit for self-defense? First off, it's not a typical knife that you would use, such as like this, American style Tonto. Okay, anybody can pick a knife up like this and use it pretty much. Not just for self-defense, but when it comes to something like this, it's a lot different. Now, so you actually need special training in order to effectively use a karambit for self-defense. Let me put this in the sheath. Also, what is the other con to using a karambit? The other con is your finger is locked into that ring. So it's not like you can just switch really quick which direction. So if you have a forward grip where you can just slash down like that, you really have to be skilled in order to put it in a reverse grip. Okay, so that's going to take time. Unlike something like this knife, I can just flip it around pretty quick, because you got to remember this one has two edges on either side, so you have to be careful you're not going to cut into your forearm. What's the other con to using a karambit for self-defense? Reach. This is an extremely close quarter weapon. So you really, if you're going to hook and grab with a karambit, you pretty much have to get close and personal for this to be effective at all. Whereas a regular knife, we all know they come longer, so you're going to have more of a reach. Also, with a karambit, the other con is you're limited in what you can do. It will only hook, it will only slash. As far as piercing and stabbing, no, it's not designed for that. You're not going to be able to pierce or stab with it, unlike something like this. So basically you're limited to just slashing and hooking. This you can slash, you can parry, you can pierce, you can change grip-wise really fast with it. This one, unless you're highly skilled, it's going to take you a little bit to change it into position. Also, like I said, with this ring, if you come up against somebody who is extremely skilled and knows about a karambit, if they're able to, this is a big if, they're able to grapple you and get to this hand, or whatever hand the karambit's in with that finger in there, either the pinky or the index, they can lock your hand into it, potentially break your finger or dislocate it. Now you're in trouble. Because yeah, that ring keeps you from being disarmed. Unless you come up against somebody with, like maybe a sword. Why you would go against somebody with a sword is one of these beyond me. But I guarantee you, that person with the sword is probably going to permanently disarm you. So anyways, I love karambits. I love the way they look. They're wicked as hell. Do I know how to use a karambit? Absolutely not. I know how to use more of swords and a regular knife or the karambit. But they are cool to have. They're a great conversation piece. So if you're actually going to carry a karambit, I would say, it's just me, for self-defense, get training on it. because you can wind up hurting yourself very, very quickly with one of these things. Like I said, this is double-edged. A lot just have that single edge in the curve. So with this one, when you slash one way, you could come back and slash with the back side. But yeah, training definitely to learn how to use one of these. These are one of those things you definitely need hands-on training to learn how to use a karambit efficiently. Would I carry a karambit for self-defense if I knew how to use it? That's a big question. I mean, like I said, from what I've read, military people, even back in the day when they started using these as weapons, this was an extreme last resort. That meant like their spear was no more good, their sword was no more good, their dagger was no more good, and then they would use one of these. Probably because you are limited on how you can hold it, what you can do with it, and your reach. Because if you're going up against somebody else with a much bigger knife, you're going to be in trouble trying. Yeah, you could hook their knife, but the thing with hooking knives goes the same with hooking swords. So if I hook this right here, and this is smooth, no edge, I don't want to do it really hard. It's not going to bind it. You could try and bind it, but if you're on smooth edge with smooth steel, like this is, with an edge, you're going to be able to slide that blade out. If you go edge on edge, it will bind it up, and you're not going to be able to do that so easily. So those are things you've got to consider. Can you deflect with a karambit? You kind of can. Again, they're not very long blades. Now, this is more in the style of a Filipino karambit. From what I understand, Indonesian ones are a little bit longer. They come out, I think, like right about here. Okay, so they are a much longer blade than this one. So they kind of go like that. Okay, so yeah. There's, like I said, there's pros and cons to having karambit. But I see nothing wrong with just go ahead and own them because of the cool factor of them. They're not really that popular of a knife. It's a specialty knife. All the way. A karambit is definitely a specialty knife. Whereas buoys and tontos and everything, you can pick one up and efficiently use it. And not, like I said, not just for like self-defense, everyday use. Like this thing, you could baton. You definitely could baton with something like this. The karambit, you're not batoning with that. Okay, you're not clearing brush with it, none of that. It is straight up, nowadays, a defense, an item to, you know, to use for self-defense strictly. So it's things you got to think about, you know, if you're going to carry one or not. Me personally, I'll just carry something like this because I can use it for tons of different things. But for cool factor and a conversation piece for people, definitely the karambit. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and be safe with your blades, and we'll see you on the next one.